going on, everyone? Hello. Well, pretty interesting news just dropped an hour ago, and I thought I kind of want to get into this straight away. So the news is that the Acolyte, the Star Wars show that we didn't know that we wanted, but we got, has been cancelled. It's official. That's from Lucasfilm and Disney. Sorry, my glasses are on crooked. I think they're straight now, more or less. No season 2 for the Acolyte. So, and I'm gonna I'm not here to start ranting and saying "told you so" and all this kind of thing, because if you go and look at the reviews, we did a weekly review of the Acolyte on this channel. And one of the reasons I scheduled that review was because I wanted to give the show a fair shake, because there was a lot of negativity surrounding the show before the show opened. And, I like to give things a fair chance. And I thought, well, let's give this a chance. Let's see what it's like. I liked the idea of it being set in a time that we weren't familiar with within the Star Wars sort of timeline narrative. Good to see you, NPC person. Good to see you, the BMAX. Welcome to the Outcast Creative channel. I'm going to come back to these comments in a second, so give me a second. So going back, I always like to make up my own mind. If I see something I want to see it, I am a big Star Wars fan. I mean, hello. I am of that age where I went to see the original Star Wars as a kid at the cinema, queued up in the big long lines in 1977. And I'm also being constantly told that my opinion has no value now because I'm of a certain demographic when it comes to these things. I think any Star Wars fan's opinion has value, regardless of their age, whether they grew up on the prequels and think they're the most amazing thing since sliced bread, or whether you're an original Star Wars fan from the 1970s. We all have things we love about Star Wars. But above all, I'm all about story in films. I've watched and digested films all my life. And I'm all about narrative. I work as a script writer and a playwright for a living. I've done about 15 plays in London. I've done a couple of feature films. Well, I've done 3 actually, but you won't have seen 2 of them. And God knows how many pilots I've written that haven't been commissioned, and all of that. So I've been writing full time pretty much since the late 90s, I think. So I understand story, I understand building blocks of story, I understand narrative. So I'm quite critical of those things. For example, Aliens Romulus, there was quite a lot that was wrong with that movie, even though there were some good things. There were some good things. It wasn't the worst Aliens movie or Alien movie. But let's get into this. Let's get into the reasons given. So yeah, just to recap, when we did the reviews of the Acolyte, myself and Blue Collar Loser and some other people, we reviewed it on a weekly basis, and we talked about what we liked about every episode and what we didn't like. And gradually we started, even though I was trying to be positive, I was trying to be constructive, because I really liked things like the internal ship sets. The sets for the internal ship design was really nice. It looked very Star Wars. A lot of care had gone into it, and there were certain visuals that looked nice, but the story just sucked. And I thought the way that the Jedi were handled in the story was very poor. There was a lot of things in the story that didn't make any sense. I thought the themes were all over the place. There were some things that I thought potentially were interesting. Maybe there was a time when the Jedi would, if they would detect force-sensitive children, they would kidnap them. They would take them away from their parents, and so they've got to become Jedi, and I thought, that's kind of interesting to explore. If maybe that happened in the past and it's not the way things are now, and if that had been done right, it could have been interesting, or there could have been a certain sect within the Jedi that were doing that, and the other Jedi found out about it, and you kind of had almost like a civil war, mini civil war, not a big one, or across the galaxy. There's lots of different ways that story could have been taken and expanded upon as a narrative, but hey, so let's go straight to the Hollywood Reporter, see what they have to say. So no, I don't, thank you very much. Okay, and thank you for the comments, those people that have popped in. Good to see you, Desert Phoenix. What's to discuss? No one wants more shit. The power of many, the power of one season. Maybe Disney has suddenly got an eye for quality. Well, you'd like to think so, wouldn't you? Like to think so. So the Acolyte will not return for season 2. The Hollywood Reporter has confirmed Lucasfilm has opted not to continue the Disney Plus Star Wars series, which aired its season 1 finale last month. Okay, so before we read on there, so that's Lucasfilm. So Kathleen Kennedy is the head of Lucasfilm. So Kennedy's obviously got to be influential in this decision. Now, loads of people are going to be cheering and applauding, and they're going to be very pleased that this season's cancelled. I'm not pleased that it was made this way at all in the first place. I don't understand when the controls are so rigid in Hollywood these days. Producers often have their fingerprints on everything. How did scripts of this quality, how did this story get commissioned in the first place? If you go and work on let's give an example of, let's say, Falcon Crest or Dallas or General Hospital, all those things, Sunset Beach, you got those big soaps that have been around for years and years and years. If you go and work as a writer on one of those shows, right, which you would call it's an established IP in its own right. It's an established IP in its own right. You have people whose job on those shows is to guide you, because you can't factually alter anything that's already happened in that show's universe. So you can't come in and say, well, Bobby's going to marry Sarah. Oh, no, they can't do that. Why? Oh, because Sarah has this prejudice in her character. We covered that 2 seasons ago. Therefore, she wouldn't find Bobby attractive because politically his character's like this or whatever. So you can't explore that narrative, or if you do, you're going to have to find a way to. I'm just giving a really blind example here. So if you go and work on an established show, there are people in place that their job will be to say, you can't do that, or you can't say that line, because that contradicts an established fact in this known universe, right? It is obvious to me from watching the show, even from the minor mistakes that they made, that they then retconned or corrected on things like Wikipedia and stuff like that. There was absolutely none of that in place on this show at all whatsoever, nothing. So, and why you wouldn't have someone on a show like Star Wars doing that as a job, when you're talking about one of the most successful IPs in cinema and television history, in the universe, in the history of the world. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that. Star Wars is massive, and there are so many talented writers and directors out there, so many. I mean, I've got my friend Simon Cox. I'm going to his set on Thursday, and a lot of you probably don't know this, but I started off as an actor when I was younger. And I'm actually going to play a commander of a Star Cruiser in this film of his, Other Worlds. And Simon is this very, very dedicated filmmaker. He's an absolutely massive Star Wars nerd. He's also an incredibly talented filmmaker. He made a movie called Planet Invasion Earth for almost peanuts, and it had this massive vision and huge alien invasion of Earth, and in that I played a tank commander. I'm supposed to be commanding the ground forces of Earth. I'm not sure that comes across in the scene, but this guy would give his right arm to even direct a single episode of Star Wars, and he would know how to do it. He would know how to choreograph the battles so that they look like Star Wars and they don't look like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Potato. So there are people out there that know and love this IP. They love it, they really love it. They care about it. Why you would not have someone who knows everything about all the minutiae, all the off whatever's canon, whatever's not canon, all those details, why you wouldn't have that person on there to guide young writers who are maybe in their 30s, late 20s, to say, no, that's not right, because you can't have that because of this. Why you wouldn't have that as a means of, and then above them you would have a producer who their job would be quality control. Somebody looked at these scripts and said these scripts were okay. Well, whose job was that? Well, we can only speculate, but maybe this comment. Yeah, one big say. Yeah, I read that. Some of us view Kathleen's retirement as the greatest possible success. I mean, look, I don't know the woman, and I get also that the Acolyte may have had its fans, and there are probably some people out there that love it and think it's amazing. But the backlash against this show is not just coming from people that are just haters and all that kind of thing. I don't know anyone in the industry who liked this show. No one. And I've got probably the most eclectic friends, all different races, sexuality, cultural backgrounds, etc., 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 etc. I mean, some of them don't like Star Wars at all, but loads of them do. Loads of them do. No one likes this show because there's so much in it that didn't make sense to them. There's so much in it that didn't feel Star Wars. It's Star Wars as an IP, Star Wars as a product is a family action adventure show set in space, right? And at its core values have always been good versus evil, underdogs versus David versus Goliath. It's an old tale, as old as Pinocchio and all of that. And I just think when you're trying to mold something that's so established into something that it's not going to work. Now, if you take Star Wars out of the Acolyte for a second, let's just do that, and you make a show about a group of bounty hunters whose job it is to find children with special powers because they go for thousands of credits on the black market in space, and you set this in the universe of Tomaz or something, and you switch out the Jedi for this bounty hunter mercenary team with guns, and there can be like 7 different races, a bit like a bad guy Battle Beyond the Stars, Magnificent Seven kind of deal. And there's 7 bad characters, and they're coming to hunt these twins that they've heard exist who have special powers. And the twins' mothers want to keep them safe, but it's not Star Wars. It's just it's an original sci-fi show. That's not a bad story if you take it out of the Star Wars universe. and you could have made that as an original show, packaged it up for considerably less money, um, you know, some done it as a kind of 6-8 part miniseries, whatever, and just called it Twins or something like this, and just made it an original science fiction show. Then you wouldn't have had to worry about hitting those member berries or any of that stuff, and you could have put all the social messaging in it that you wanted, and people wouldn't have hated that in the same way, because you're not forcing it down the throat of a very established narrative that doesn't suit that kind of story, or young girls eyeing up naked bodies of men getting out of pools in the ocean. It's not that these aren't things that characters would do in the Star Wars universe, but for the same reason, we don't have scenes of Grand Moff Tarkin going to take a shit in the toilet. Why? Because it's not important for us to see that. We know that Grand Moff Tarkin probably has a space toilet off of his conference room. We don't need to see it in Star Wars. We've never seen a toilet in Star Wars, I don't think. I don't think we've seen a shower. So somebody might have. Sonic showers in Battlestar Galactica, isn't it? But you get what I'm saying, guys, right? So you only need to put the stuff in Star Wars that is necessary for the core themes: good versus evil, David versus Goliath, or or Susan versus Giant Sarah, whatever. But all of that stuff. Actually, Tarkin wearing bunny slippers is definitely a scene I would like to see, maybe as a deleted scene. So, but it just is. It's weird. By the way, Atom, if you're free and you want to jump on, mate, let me know. Come on, and we'll have a chat about it. I just think where we've had good Star Wars shows, we've had so-so Star Wars shows, and we've had bad shows. And listen, it's all subjective. Some people may have loved Obi-Wan Kenobi. I happen to think it was a bit pants. I liked The Mandalorian. The first 2 seasons certainly should have ended with Luke coming to pick up Grogu. Ended it there. Nice ending. No. We had to get on with that. Atom, drop me a message. Drop me a private message on my Twitter, mate, and I'll send you the link there. So I think the biggest problem with this is you really ignored the stuff that made Star Wars great, and you tried to you thought if you made it appeal to your own sensibilities, your own life narrative, as in what you want to see in a Star Wars film. And you've got to remember that your vision of the world is only the view you've got out of your own window. Sometimes when you look out of that window, you need to take a look at the world, not just the view from your window, right? It's metaphorical. Think about it. So what you're doing is you're projecting actually a very narrow vision for the story, because you're just thinking about what you want to see. I think there was a kernel of a good idea here. Children getting taken away, separated, but it was all done wrong from the get-go. These 2 girls shouldn't have met each other until the penultimate episode. The first episode should have been their 2 lives, completely separate, and we don't even realize we're seeing 2 separate people until one suddenly wakes up from a nightmare and we realize they're dreaming about the other. That's the way I would have done it. And then a bit I'm trying to be tactful, mate. Yeah. Because this channel generally is about talking about things we want to watch, right? One of the things we do on the Nielsen ratings, which is my weekly show, it's on tomorrow, 10 o'clock UK time, be 5 o'clock East Coast, so too early for some of you guys. But we talk about older films that we watch that we think people might have forgotten about that are good. But I do like reviewing new stuff. We reviewed Shogun. We reviewed Shogun every week. We reviewed House of Dragon season 2 every week. And overall, we thought both of those shows were good. House of Dragon missed the boat on a couple of things, but I know what was going on with the production of that show, so I get why some of that stuff happened, and I think season 3 will probably make up for everything. But there was still a lot in House of Dragon season 2 that you could enjoy. There was a lot. The problem with the Acolyte is like every week we were trying to think of one line of dialogue that was amazing. And we'd been doing a retrospective review of Spartacus, the series with the late great Andy Whitfield in recently. And one of the reasons I like talking about it is because it's a really good, especially from episode 4 onwards of season 1, it's a really good writing class. The writers of that show understand how to handle a large number of characters, giving you enough with every character in each episode so you invest in them, and you've got it's an ensemble cast. 10 significant characters, 6 leads, let's say 6 leads, 5 substantial supporting characters in that show, and then you've got a whole load of others on the periphery of that show. And in every episode they advance each narrative of those main and supporting characters just enough so that you're invested in them all. Even the ones that you don't like, you want to know what happens to them, right? Yeah, I didn't give a shit about any of these characters. I didn't care about the twins because the twins, there was no difference between them. Okay, it was a mistake casting one actor in that part and having them play the same parts. What you should have done is cast twins. I did an audition for a commercial because I've worked as a casting director in the past, and my regular casting director Sharon Sorrentino was pregnant with her child at the time, and she had a commercial, so she couldn't come in for it. So I came in and I covered it for her, and we did all the casting sessions, and it was basically twins for toothpaste, and they had a very specific thing they had in mind. And we saw about 20 sets of twins, and the first set that came in, I remember these girls, and I was thinking, my God, if I've ever got a movie where I need twins, or a TV show where I need twins, and that I need them to be twin girls, these girls have already got the part, because they had thought about the audition before they came in. They had worked out a routine that was funny, that they did with this toothpaste, that was completely in sync with each other. And they just went for it, and they had fun with it. And straight away you knew, not just from the performance that they gave, but from the energy that they had, that these were going to be great people to have on your set. They were going to give you 110%. They were going to bring their own tools to the performance, and they were going to bring something special to that performance. And I was right, and they got the part, and they were great. They were fantastic. I know that there's always pressure to put big stars in roles, but that was a mistake. There was no difference between these two characters. One of them gives themselves a haircut with a lightsaber, which, by the way, was the stupidest thing ever. People just think, oh, let's do it like that because that's cool. It's like, that's not how lightsabers work, man. The heat of that would burn, like, not just cut off the ends of it, you'd end up burning your skin and all kinds of, it's just, can see people sitting in a room bashing these ideas around, right, but not really thinking them through. Hang on, let me drop the link for Atom, because he's probably messaged me on Twitter and I've forgotten. Hey, this is good. I'll bring him on. That means I can go and dash for a wee. So, by the way, if you guys are wondering, well, I'm going to read out more of this thing in a second. And thanks for the comments in the chat. Keep them coming. I'll get to them. I'll read them all out because it's not like we're doing a stream with 60 people watching. So when I do these streams and there's not many people on, I interact with my guests. You are my guests. You're in my chat. You are my guests. You're on my channel. You're giving me your time. I appreciate it, and I will interact with you as much as I can. Hello, sir.
Oh, hello. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are.
I was literally about to go to bed.
Oh.
And my friend Leroy, who has been on my channel many times, and he's a fan of the Acolyte. He likes it. Fair enough.
Fair enough.
He sent me a message. Well, I hope you're happy because season 2's been cancelled.
It's all your fault, Lance. You're so negative.
And if you, yeah, I mean, look, you know, I've only got 3.5 or whatever it is, just shy of 4,000 subs, but 285 to go or something. But I mean, I think you probably you were on some of our Acolyte streams. I mean, in the chat and stuff. And
I always try and drop in the chat. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you'll know that we always approached it with a kind of, okay, what did we like about this? And you know, and for the first sort of episode, because there were things I liked about it in episode 1. Apart from it all went crouching tiger, hidden potato, but apart from that, there were things I liked about it. So I was keeping an open mind. I thought this story might turn out to be good.
Well,
but by the end of episode 2, I was severely worried. By the end of episode 3, I was, this is
well, I'm, you know, I don't think of myself as a hater either.
No,
you know?
Same. Absolutely.
I want these shows to be good so that I can enjoy them.
Yeah.
You know, I don't do the regular sort of reviews or hate on anything for money. I'm not even monetized, you know. I just want to be entertained.
Professor Artoo, our nightmare is over. R2, man, you've been on the channel before. If you want to come on, mate, let me know and I'll find a way to get you I think you're on my Twitter, so
R2, if you come on, we can give Lance a bathroom break.
Yeah, I was just thinking I'm going to dash for a wee, and I'll bring Atom Grey on, then I can dash for a wee. That's my sole reason for bring. I'm gonna try and hold it for a bit now. No, I mean I come at this very much from an industry perspective, and before you came on, I was just talking about how one of the first things where I think they went wrong, apart from obviously the script, was that the twins should have been played by actual twins.
Yeah, that's unconscionable that they didn't do that. And
well, I mean, okay, you know, I get it. Amanda is a big name and so on, but honestly, this is bollocks because first of all, you don't need a big name to sell a Star Wars show. You can have an unknown cast, and you know what? Guess what? The cast of Star Wars, apart from Alec Guinness, was unknown. Oh, and our man
Peter Cushing,
who'd played Doctor Who twice.
Sure,
but basically, apart from those two British actors, nobody knew anybody else in Star Wars, right? You've got the biggest name on the marquee already. You have the biggest name in cinematic history. It's called Star Wars.
Yes.
So actually the excuse of, well, we needed a big name and we thought we'd do that. I mean, apart from the effects work that, you know, compositing the actor into the same scenes when they're talking to each other, all that stuff, that's expensive. That's time consuming. And I was talking about how I auditioned twins for this toothpaste commercial because I
heard
cover
that.
my casting director when she can't work, and the first girls that we saw, and we saw 20 twins, so 40 people. They came into that audition room and they completely smashed it. And they thought they'd got the sides for the commercial, and it was mainly about perform a physical routine that the two of you are going to sort of do in tandem, kind of thing. And they were amazing. I'll never forget them. And I was just like, you know, straight away on my notepad, you know, 5 ticks kind of thing next to their names, and no one topped them. We saw some other good people, but no one topped them. And I remember coming from that audition, and I calling Sharon. I said, "Well, you know, we cast the role, no problem." I had no idea there were so many good twins out there. And she said, "Oh, there's loads. I mean, we didn't get them all." So, and that's in the UK. And by the way, this was shot in the UK. So I'm sure there's just as many twins now. And of course, they did use real twins for the younger sisters. They were real twins, those actresses.
On the Acolyte, those were twins.
They were, yeah.
Fraternal twins.
That played the younger. Yeah, that's two different actors, but they are actual twins in real life.
That I hadn't heard.
I might be. Let me just now you've got me worried now. I want to double check because I don't like getting facts wrong.
All I remember is Leslie's explanation that she wanted to have two different looking actresses, younger actresses, so that it would be easier for the audience to tell them apart, which is an obvious reflection on the poor quality of the writing immediately.
Well, indeed.
Yeah, if that's the case, then it's not written correctly.
Yeah, Leah and Lauren Brady, who are sisters in real life, played Little May and Little Osha.
Oh my goodness.
Right. So,
okay.
You know, you did that for the younger.
Yes.
Yes. Professor Artoo, the link's in your Twitter inbox, mate. Why not do it? And I get it. I get where they were coming from. It was, oh well, you know, she's a name. That would be the reason, that someone's sitting in the boardroom and they're going, she's a name. But I don't think that's what happened on this show. I think what happened on this show was the showrunner of the show went and chatted with all their mates at whichever club or house they frequent. And there was a big conversation, said, well, guess what? You know, we've got a lead role coming up in the show. And I think you should play it. And why don't you play both parts? Because, you know, significant paycheck, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I mean, it's not just the chats aren't going to be as black and white as that, but it's not going to be, hey, you're a really big Star Wars fan. Do you know, I'm doing a Star Wars IP. You love Star Wars. And you always wanted to do a Star, and you know, I've got a great narrative and it's really Star Wars. And I'd love to think those were the conversations that take place.
That's what you wish for, yeah.
No rush, mate. I'm going to stay on for another half hour at least. So Barbara Lawrence saying she's not that much of a name. I mean, I'm guessing there was some conversations around appealing to a certain youthful demographic, but the simple matter of the fact about this show is they were more interested in ticking boxes and appealing to certain boxes of demographics than they were in creating a good Star Wars show.
Well, there was a very creepy quote from Leslie Headland saying that she had been following Amandla for years and years and years and had such a crush on her, implying that Leslie Headland had a crush on her since Amandla was a minor, which is really disturbing, actually.
I mean, okay, for argument's sake, let's assume she meant that in a kind of, hey, when I was younger, I had a girl crush, you know.
Yeah, in a cheeky way.
Let's put the Harvey Weinstein out of the room for a minute and assume that was all innocent. Even if that is the case, right? Can you imagine what the reaction would have been if a male showrunner had made the same comment in an interview?
That's what's so infuriating.
Would that have
been standard?
Would that have been accepted, or would that person have been fired and taken off the show, do you think?
He would have been burned at the stake.
Yeah, absolutely. So I, you know,
anyways, enough gossip. There's plenty of flaws we can talk about in the actual production.
Well, I'm going to go through the rest of the article because I barely got. I just sort of really just was. I know, because I know there's people watching this that probably are on my channel for the first time. Just putting it out there, you know, I was always actually wanting to be a supporter of this show. I watched it and I scheduled reviews of it, hoping it was going to be good. Generally, I don't sort of bother scheduling, a review of a show that I think is going to be shit, because why do I want to spend 10 weeks talking about a show that's pants? So, and then we kept waiting for it to get better or maybe surprise us in a really massive way. And unfortunately, it didn't. So the Leslie Headland created show, and her name is normally in the credits about 3 times in case you miss it, earned respectable reviews from critics. Well,
Did it?
did it? Yeah, I mean, did it?
I didn't see
And,
many.
Please stand by. Professor Artoo's in the house.
Almost. He's getting here.
Yeah. Oh,
Hello there.
Hey.
Oh, yes. It is a great day today.
Are you celebrating at home?
Oh, yes. Yes.
well, I mean, you can talk about how you're celebrating while I dash to the bathroom quickly. But,
Okay, we'll get into it and you get out of it there.
but I did say at the beginning of this stream, for me, this isn't a cause of this isn't a cause of celebration. This is
Well, ultimately no, but
because
True.
Where I feel this show failed was in the pre-production stage, and what I talked about earlier before you guys came on is where was the quality control? Where was, and it's basic things right up to the top. Where was the person whose job it was to check all the boxes of Star Wars canon to make sure none of those rules were broken? They didn't have anyone doing that. It's quite obvious they didn't. They just made it up as they went along. And then where was the person at the top who looks at the scripts when they're presented before script reads take place and talk through the whole show, or talk through the treatment, the synopsis? You're going to do detailed treatments and synopses before you actually then go away and write all the scripts. That rewriting process, that organic creation process is I mean, I probably could have written all these episodes in, under high pressure with a big paycheck. I probably could have done them all in 3 months. But
Lance, you could have done it with a raging fever in bed. I'm sure it would have been
probably
better.
But
And probably has.
that's where for me with this show, that's where the biggest failure lies. The person the experienced person who was at the top somehow looked at this stuff and said, this is good, green light, let's go, when it was, you can't have looked at those scripts and gone, this dialogue's amazing, look at these great lines, people are going to be quoting these amazing lines, do you want to touch it? Whatever. For years to come. And I mean, maybe that's true, but for all the wrong reasons. And is this a quote, by the way? NPC person has just put, "Go force yourself, Mark Hamill."
Yes.
He actually
yes, it did. Okay, so this was he was actually at a conference, at a con
convention,
he was at a con in Chicago, if I'm not mistaken. And yes, he was up on stage talking about some stuff, and he essentially, of course, as he does these days, brought it back to politics. And he said, if I remember, I believe what he said was, we used to say, let the force be with you, but if you're MAGA, you can go force yourself.
Who's MAGA?
Trump supporters.
Oh, okay. All right. Yep. Well, we don't do politics on my channel.
Yep.
So let's
and Mark shouldn't be doing politics.
He really shouldn't. I mean, he's kind of making the case for Gina Carano and everything.
Listen. What happened is he drank the alien milk boob.
And
the green Kool-Aid. Yeah.
Yes, he did.
Let me go to the bathroom. You guys.
Speaking of green Kool-Aid,
don't forget to turn your mic off.
Yeah.
How are you, Artoo?
Oh, I am wonderful. How are you doing, Adam?
I'm doing okay. Drowning in editing and copyright.
Yes, copyright hell. Yes, it's a fun place to be. Yeah. Well, I can't say I'm at all surprised to hear this evening that this show was not renewed for another season.
No, I'm not surprised. I mean, look, here's the thing. We all just want good Star Wars entertainment. And when it's bad, it's okay to snicker a little bit about getting canceled because it
Yes.
deserved to be canceled.
I would have loved for this to be a good show.
Yes.
I was completely betting against The Mandalorian when it started. I figured it was going to be junk, and it was good.
The first season was
the
just
first
fine.
season was good. The second season was rough. It was not great, but it was okay. It had some good episodes in there.
Yeah,
It's had some good character stuff.
My view of The Mandalorian's pretty similar. First season, I really liked it. Second season, some good things and not so good things, but overall, I quite liked it. The second season was the one that ended with Luke arriving, right?
The second season ended with Luke.
Yes.
Yeah, that's where it should have finished. That was a perfect ending. Grogu goes with Luke, presumably to do Jedi things.
Of course, that's where we found out that there was meddling happening. That really was supposed to be basically the end of the Grogu story.
Right.
And then we were going to get to go back and just have Mando being his bounty hunter self.
And then the merchandising division showed the numbers on the amount of Baby Yoda toys being sold, and they said,
said, nope, you have to bring him back. You've got to put him back in the show somehow. And so then we got the the bizarre Book of Boba Fett series that was half Mandalorian.
Boba Fett, the granddad years. That's what I call that.
The crime lord that doesn't do crime. Yes.
We always wanted to see a fat Boba Fett show.
Yeah.
I mean, really. I mean,
and no slight on Tamura.
No.
The guy loves the role, but I mean, you have to sort of earn the suspension of disbelief.
Absolutely, sure. I really like Tamura Morrison. I think he's got a real character to him, and
there's no reason why they couldn't have had a younger athletic guy in the suit and just cut to him for when he takes his helmet off.
Shoddy oversight, because that's the right thing to do.
Yeah,
they changed the fabric of his jumpsuit to black to make him look slimmer, and it's just like, God, guys, please.
Listen, guys, I've tried that at nightclubs wearing all black. The girls are onto it pretty quick. They always prod you in the stomach and just check. So let me just read the rest of this from the Hollywood Reporter. So we got to the respectable reviews from critics section, which of itself is a line of fiction.
Yeah.
But was panned by audiences with only 18% on Rotten Tomatoes. The show was review bombed from some quarters who perceived it as woke.
No, it was not review bombed.
We'll come back to this. The of the internet going after Headland, who is a member of the LGBTQ plus community, as well as the series' diverse group of actors. Okay, well, we're going to come back to all of that. Let's read the rest. And this is a quote from Headland. Honestly, I feel sad that people would think that if something were gay, that would be bad. Headland told THR in June. It makes me feel sad that a bunch of people on the internet, that's us presumably, would somehow dismantle what I consider to be the most important piece of art that I've ever made. Also in June, Amanda Stenberg fired back at the racist backlash. I don't remember a racist backlash, but maybe she got some horrible tweets.
Well, they manufactured one.
Oh yeah, and then she made that ridiculous clapback video.
With an original song on social media. It was an easy target, said one source of the back and forth connection to the show's cancellation. That's a very vague source, and it hurt the public perception of the show. I'm going to address that specific point in a second. It hurt the public perception of the show. The Acolyte was set about 100 years before Star Wars Episode 1, which was one of the good things about it. Stenberg played twin sisters Oshra and May, which was not a good decision. Separated in childhood, Oshra, blah, blah. Okay, along Stenberg, the series featured blah, blah. The series ended with some tantalizing story points. Who's saying that? And even hinted at bringing back the popular character Yoda because Grogu wasn't enough.
You keep Yoda's name out your damn mouth.
Elsewhere, Manny Jacinto's Evil the Stranger proved to be a breakout, with the character to have his own life-size helmet from Hasbro, but viewership data was not strong enough to prompt a season 2, according to sources. So now he's just going to get a helmet instead. Another factor may have been the evolving nature of streaming viewing habits and the erosion of goodwill of the Star Wars brand when it comes to a series. There still has been no word of a second season for Ahsoka, for example. Okay, so let's just take this about now. First of all, I don't care if there are gay characters in Star Wars or not.
Nope.
I don't feel we need it.
Nope.
But I don't care. Okay, if you want to have a scene with two girls holding hands or whatever, and we're showing that those particular two characters are in love and one's going to rescue the other, I'm all good with that. It's fine.
It's fine.
But this whole article is so gaslit. It's because, okay, the show was reviewed bombed. Well, it was reviewed by lots of people,
right,
myself included. And
the show bombed, and the reviews reflect that. So they changed the narrative.
Yeah.
And you say this article was the whole show, the whole way through, was gaslit. We were continually told that this show was beloved, that it was amazing, that it had the best lightsaber fights since the prequels, that it had these amazing characters, and all.
It had none of those things, unfortunately. No. So the next thing I want to pick up on here is this sentence from Headland, which I take personal offense to. I think it's a homophobic statement, personally. Honestly, I feel sad that people would think that if something were gay, that would be bad. I've watched every season of the L Word.
Well, if you include the next sentence of hers, it's narcissism. It's just straight narcissism.
Makes me feel bad that a bunch of people on the internet would somehow dismantle what I consider to be the most important piece of art I've ever made. Listen,
I don't care what she makes. I don't.
If she thinks that, great for her. But we just wanted a Star Wars show that had a good story. And what we got was a mess. It was a convoluted mess. It had some good ideas, but there wasn't somebody really taking the reins and reining things in and saying, look, actually, that bit won't work because of this bit, and this bit needs to be over here. Maybe they shouldn't meet in episode 1 because it would create more drama. Somebody sort of making those kinds of suggestions.
The whole show felt like it was just a patchwork that was just sort of stuck together out of what they had available. Like they just had something, and they had a whole lot of it, but none of it really worked together, and they just had to sort of patch together a story out of it.
No, it's like they took an unbound script and threw it up into the air and then shuffled all the pages back together and then said, go, film it.
Darth Plato, who was on earlier for $2, says, no. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's him saying that about the cancellation.
Yes.
I mean, it's okay. Let's there's another sentence here somewhere I've got an issue with. So, first of all, I've never commented under a celebrity's profile and had a pop at them. It's just not something I'm interested in doing. I will put supportive comments like, saw your performance in blah blah, thought you're amazing,
sure,
that sort of thing.
Sure.
And if you watch the reviews that we did of the Acolyte and you go to review 1, you will see that I'm still trying to be quite positive. I'm trying to be quite hopeful. I'm ignoring all the shouting that's going on the internet where everyone's already like, this is the worst thing we've ever seen. And I'm kind of like, it's episode 1. Let's give it a go. It might get better. And if it had got better, I would have been very happy about it. But unfortunately, the dark side.
Yes.
By the way, they can't spell the word featured, and this is the Hollywood Reporter. It's so clear. That thing I talked about earlier where you have no one checking everything?
Yeah. I mean,
proofreading is a dead art.
Hell, I have a Grammarly subscription that I use for my professional writing because I make typos all the time. They can't afford that at the Hollywood Reporter.
I guess cutbacks and what have you. I don't. This is. There's no comment here about maybe we should have. No one's putting their hand up and said maybe we should have thought about the story a bit more.
And to go back what you said earlier, they actually did have a star much bigger than Amandla, which was the guy from Squid Game.
Yeah, they had Lee Jung-jae, but they also had Daphne Keane. They also had Carrie-Anne Moss.
Yes, Carrie-Anne Moss seems to be left out of this completely.
They had I genuinely I've never seen anything with Manny Jacinto in it, but or Jacinto, I don't know how to pronounce his name.
I thought he was the best part of the whole series.
He was
can act.
really compelling. Like
Yeah,
he had
can
expressions on his face, and he read his lines with conviction. And as bad as they might have been, there were some decent performances in this. It makes me really angry that Lee Jung-jae, that his character, I think a lot of people attached to him early on in the show as being kind of the best character in the show, the most sort of enjoyable performance of the show, and then just the absolute disrespect that they treat him with in the last episode. Infuriating.
He's working with garbage, and he actually gives a pretty compelling performance, even though he has to waffle back and forth in every scene.
And he doesn't even speak English.
Right, and he's just doing it phonetically, basically.
He's actually putting in a good performance.
Yeah. You know, it's not that the show is absolutely hopeless. It's just unwatchable.
No.
And I mean, look, anybody who doubts that I am a really big diehard Star Wars fan. I mean, in addition to...
No one doubts that.
Exhibit 1, which is the Lego Death Star, which I've made a lot of personal modifications to myself. Sitting behind on the shelf. You may have noticed for this stream, there's a picture of a model of a Super Star Destroyer. Don't know if
Tell
you
us
saw
about that.
I made that.
What?
Yeah, and I'm going to try and find another picture of it because I've got two. I've got more than two, but I've only got two on this machine. Hang on, I know where it is. It's on my Facebook.
Where's the model now?
It's in James Opry's loft, who is one of the people that helped me run the game. And that's the doorman from Studio 54, Mark Benecki, who I've been trying to get to come on my channel to give me an interview. So yeah, here it is. So, and if you look to the right here,
nice.
you can see that's the half-built Death Star. And I've actually got another shot of this from above, and you'll see somebody's wearing an Admiral Ackbar mask on their head in that shot, and that's me. So at the beginning of each game, I had to do that. You can see here, do all of that.
It's a trap.
Yeah, it's a trap. I did actually do that. I said that line 3 times.
Really withstand that kind of firepower.
Yeah. So, and if you look, you can see these little dots. These are all TIE fighters and X-wings on sticks.
Nice.
So this was this massive Return of the Jedi game that I did at this games convention in, I think it was 1991.
That was awesome.
Well, no one would ever accuse you of not being a real fan, Lance.
No. Yeah, it's a shame. There was a Rebel cruiser as well, but I've sold that. That went to a friend of mine, and the Death Star got smashed in a move, didn't survive.
Oh dear.
I've still got the loads of the little ships on sticks, and I've still got 9 regular Star Destroyers, which were kits. So I do still have them. Let's have a look at some of the other reporting of this issue, and let's see how
fair and balanced reporting. I hope.
Yeah, I'm hoping there's some fair and balanced reporting here. Let's see. So we've got Deadline, we've got Variety. We know Variety very balanced. That's all that.
The objective standard in Hollywood news.
Acolyte will not return for season 2. I like the way they're saying Lucasfilm has elected, but Kathleen Kennedy is still the chairwoman of Lucasfilm.
She's running this all from her gold-plated toilet. So
yeah. Blah blah blah. The news comes at once as a shock.
Oh,
given how much the season 1 ended on a cliffhanger and teased several plot lines for season 2. Not much of a surprise, given the wildly opposing reception from fans and the less than robust viewership.
Less than robust. I'm gonna use that term for my next disappointing performance in the bedroom. It was less than robust.
Are you going to use it, or is your wife going to adapt that?
Not if I beat her to it.
Well, that was less than robust.
My darling, I'm afraid I'm feeling less than robust this
No.
evening.
I just ended it on a cliffhanger.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Stay tuned for part 2, honey.
Yeah.
I just, I mean, I was talking about this before you guys came on. You know, I work in the industry, and there's a lot of my friends in the industry who are massive Star Wars fans. I don't know anyone that liked this show. And they're all from different demographics, culture, race, all of that. I don't know anybody who liked it.
No one that I know personally, and no one that I subscribe to on YouTube.
I know one person who liked it, who's Leroy, who comes on the channel.
Oh yes, you did mention Leroy. So
reviewing other things, and you know, he did like it, and he's quite upset that it's been cancelled. But unfortunately, 7 people in the world is not enough. Listen. If people liked it, I don't have a problem with that. I just think
I don't either. It's not. I have no investment in being right to strangers.
No.
Yeah,
that's a really good. That's a perfect way of phrasing it. It's just that, but I'm quite happy to sort of point out why.
Well, and they can.
It's below par when it is so obviously below par. This was terrible writing. Terrible.
They can whatever you enjoy, but you can't convince me that it's good if it's objectively terribly made.
Yeah, and it has been proven objectively. You look at the ratings. We've gotten all of the ratings. We've seen the finale was the worst rated finale of all the series.
Right.
All of the Star Wars series and all of the Disney Plus shows. It was the worst watched thing they've ever had.
Let's see.
I mean, it's astonishing. And then all the ratings and everything compared to each of the different shows, each of the different Star Wars shows. The viewers per episode with Mando season 2 was nearly 30 million, 29.9 million. The Acolyte view per episode was only 9.3.
Ouch.
They had destroyed their audience at this point, and no one wanted to see it.
That's what we're talking about too, is that this comes on the tail of failure after failure after failure after failure. This is not, the odd ugly duckling in the bunch.
No.
It's been a slow slide for the last couple of years. It's been really bad. Kenobi, Boba Fett.
The death of 1,000 cuts,
Yeah.
The studio can't afford 1,000, so it's going to be like maybe 6.
Yeah.
Throw a Wookiee in there. We can afford that.
I like this.
Give him a man bun, and
let me read this next bit. Creator Leslie Headland, in brackets Russian doll, did enjoy that show. An avowed Star Wars superfan, in brackets former employee of Harvey Weinstein, who saw nothing, did nothing, said nothing, set out to create the first Star Wars story set outside the core timeline, which I think actually is quite a good idea, noble goal, interesting. That's what attracted me to the show. When I heard that, I thought, oh, great, good. Leave all the kind of known stuff. Let's do something completely different.
Sure. Yeah. I've always said that, all of these different series and movies should spin off into different genres. And Andor has sort of embraced that. But we're getting very little else. The Boba Fett should have become a Western, if not the Mandalorian. But yeah, we should see these things spin out into very different worlds with very different styles of storytelling. But that's not what we're getting.
And then again, now this is an interesting point. I want to discuss this. Some critics and fans loved how the show challenged the traditional perception of the Jedi as infallible and wholly virtuous, as embodied by the emotionally self-serving choices made by the Jedi Master, blah, blah, who is responsible for removing Osha from her family and causing her separation from her sister. Right now, I don't have an issue with that as a storyline. I actually think, maybe some Jedi fucking up somehow or making a big mistake was quite kind of an interesting idea.
There's a nice itch to scratch there. I mean, obviously not all Jedi are perfect.
Yes. No. Yes.
If it had been done with good characters and interesting dialogue.
Certainly Anakin was not a great Jedi,
my problem is not that there are some. There's so many Jedi. There's going to be some that fail. There's going to be some that fall on the wayside, that fall to the dark side, that fall to different temptations. That's going to happen. And there's fun stories, interesting stories, even deeply emotional stories that could be told through that happening. But I think what you have to have in the end is that the Jedi as a group, as a plural, has to come back to that virtuous. There has to be some punishment. There has to be something that happens for that person that's failed, that's fallen, to the dark side or whatever. But instead, here, what we get is that the Jedi are just covering everything up.
They're just Keystone Cops.
Yeah, I didn't buy that as a narrative headed up by bald green actress lady.
Yeah,
mostly devoid of actual acting ability.
Green Bean is, I think, her popular name. Yeah.
Yes, and that's just. But yeah, it's all part of this same storytelling that we've been getting in so many different projects, where we've got to break down these classic heroes. We've got to make them so that they are failures. They're, whatever. They're broken.
Character assassination, deconstruction ad nauseum. Yes. If you have a good story to tell about, a Jedi that's wavering, not doing the right things but he's doing it for the right reasons. That's drama. That's interesting.
Or what would have been even better is you could have had a group of people pretending to be Jedi who had a load of lightsabers that they'd nicked and they'd trained with, but they weren't Jedi at all. They were mercenaries, and the big plot twist could have been that they weren't Jedi and they'd come to kidnap the kids for nefarious reasons. Because
my favorite part of Rogue One is Donnie Yen's character. He's a force-sensitive force user, but he's not a Jedi because he's just, he never was introduced to the Jedi, but he has his own, his own faith, his own religion, and that's fascinating.
He has his own relationship with the force.
Yeah,
his relationship.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
There's a good comment here from the B-Max, and I haven't seen you on the channel, mate, before, so welcome. And
welcome, B-Max.
Appreciate the comment. Star Wars has had politics, but the politics were always in the service of world building instead of appealing to the audience's politics. I would agree with that. That's very good. Very well put, sir. Very well put. It's like there's lots of things you could have done with, and it could have turned out that they were all actually in the service of a Sith. And it's not beyond the realms of possibility that Sith trains up a load of people and says, now what you're going to do is you're going to put some brown robes on and pretend to be good. And you're going to go and get that child, and you're going to pretend that it's for good reasons, but we're going to kidnap them and we're going to turn them bad.
And Leslie Headland pitched this to the audience as a mystery story. But at every turn of the entire season, the most obvious telegraphed answer is always what turns out to be true.
Who could that masked guy be, Adam?
Yeah.
Who could that possibly be?
Milo Ren is the guy carrying around the helmet-sized backpack? What? Tell me it's not true.
Oh,
it's so painful. It's just child's writing.
Well, the biggest mystery is, how did these scripts get commissioned? That's the big mystery here to me.
The biggest mystery is, how can I get paid to write garbage like this? I mean, really, honestly, I could crank this out in a day. Any of us could. It's terrible.
I mean, it's. I mentioned it earlier. I'm going to be on a set on Thursday, and I'm playing the commander of a battleship. I haven't even got my lines yet, and it's for my friend Simon Cox, who did this movie Invasion Planet Earth.
Cool.
And he made that for peanuts money.
Sure.
And it's a movie with massive ideas and massive ambition. He didn't quite have the money to pull it off the way he wanted, but he made it, and it's a fun film.
Yeah.
And he's the biggest Star Wars fan on the planet. He's as a big a Star Wars fan as me, and both me and him would absolutely kill to direct or create. I mean, imagine being told, "Hey, you're a grafting film director. You've been a Star Wars fan all your life. I'm going to give you a budget to go and make your own Star Wars IP." That's like
just develop
mine and Simon's like wet dream, and we're going to sit down and write properly until
Give
it's
us a treatment. Give us 30 pages of dialogue, and let's see
yeah.
what it looks like. Yeah.
And Eraserhead has said again, clearly a friend of David Lynch, script never evolved from a first draft. There's no way it possibly could have. I have to admit, it does feel like this didn't go through many rewrites. Or
if it did, it was rewritten in pieces and not overall.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is it's so disjointed. It's just painfully disjointed. It's like whiplash from scene to scene in an episode.
Yeah, you just get that. You just get that feeling that it wasn't finished when they were shooting. They were still making
characters
changes.
Turn on a dime. Their characteristics, their beliefs, their personality quirks change from scene to scene. It's just agonizing to watch.
Let's have a look. Other fans, however, felt these creative choices were anti-ethical to the good versus nature of Star Wars. And I get why people thought that. Personally, it didn't bother me, but I get why people thought that. Storytelling, and strongly objected to the show's expansion of the mythology of the Force, power of many, blah, blah. The Acolyte was also review bombed, an insidious practice often employed as a form of digital protest against inclusive casts centered around actors of color and LGBT characters. I think this is nonsense.
It is.
All the people that I've spoken to, that I've had conversations with about this show, no one has talked about race. No one has talked about gay, straight, whatever. We've all been talking about character, narrative, standard of acting, standard of dialogue, pace, tone, things in the Star Wars universe that feel like Star Wars, and things in this show that don't feel like Star Wars. No one's brought up any of these issues. Now, I'm not saying there aren't people out there that have been doing that, and I'm sure there probably are some horrible trolls and some horrible haters. But most of us have just been talking about, what the show got right, short conversation, and what the show got wrong, much longer conversation. And some people have been taking that apart to the 9th degree. And every week we try to say something positive about it on my channel, and boy, did it make it hard. So despite these objections, the Acolyte also captured a great deal of positive reactions, especially surrounding the reveal that Manny Jacinto, first introduced as May's hapless sidekick, was really the masked Sith warrior. Well, there wasn't anyone else it could be, wasn't it?
No, there's really no one else up for it.
A scene in which Jacinto disrobes along a rocky coastline as a tactic to seduce Osha to the dark side garnered a great deal of attention, spawning legions of thirst posts.
Oh, God.
What's a thirst post?
Means horny.
Yeah.
Basically.
Oh, right. Okay. Well,
thirsty, horny.
See, I'm a 50-year-old white guy. I don't know about it. So.
I'm 54, lad, so I have to keep up with the kids as well as you do.
Yeah. 50 as far as you know. So
Forever 39.
Yeah, I mean, the good news is that I've always said we need a Max Rebo show, and in that Star Wars trailer, there is a Max Rebo character with a big snootus. So my passion prayer for Star Wars has been answered. We're getting an elephant alien.
The further adventures of Max Rebo. We need to know his backstory. How did he get to Jabba's palace? Exactly.
Yeah, does he come
Who
from
taught him keyboard?
Yeah, does he come from a family of drummers? I have found the overhead shot of the game. Here you go. So
wow,
that Superstar Destroyer was 6 feet long.
That's incredible.
And you could lift the middle sections out of it, but that was one large piece of wood that my dad cut to the size and shape that I specified.
So these photos are from a convention or a gaming gathering?
No, it's a games convention. That's me with the Admiral Ackbar mask on.
Nice.
You can't see it very well here, but that's the big wide Rebel cruiser here.
Mm-hmm.
There's the medical frigate, and we've got a couple of other Rebel cruisers down here. We were supposed to have 6 more, and my friend Alan Marks, late Alan Marks, special effects guy, turned up with one on the day and said he couldn't get the rest made in time. So it was like we had 2 Rebel cruisers plus the medical frigate against the Death Star plus this massive Superstar Destroyer plus like I think how many of them are there? I think there were nine of these Star Destroyers. So the Rebels had quite a hard time.
Yeah, we're gonna need more force.
Yeah, well, we sort of evened it up a little bit for them, but and there were 6 of us running the game. So the guys with the blue hats on here, this guy who was sort of dressed up as Han Solo, yeah, and us 3 over here. So yeah, we had a
Good
nice
times.
team, and you can see the Death Star there. Yeah, man, I loved that space battle from Return of the Jedi. It's one of my favorite sequences in the entire franchise because the stakes with it are just so great. And it's just, concentrated firepower on that Super Star Destroyer, one of the best sequences in Star Wars ever. Yeah. Intensify forward battery. Yeah. So
that space battle in Return of the Jedi is one of the highlights of the entire film. It's amazing.
I mean, if it had been, I reckon if you did some clever editing, you could probably re-edit the battle on Endor, and you could probably edit in the Wookiee battle from, is it the prequels on the planet with the Wookiees?
Yep.
Yeah. I think
edit all that.
Revenge of the Jedi.
You could have a Wookiee battle instead, and then you could could probably do a fun edit with that.
Yeah, we deserved Wookiees. We got Ewoks.
I know.
They were more marketable.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't hate them. They work, but it would have been so much better if it.
I never bought any Ewok toys, but I would buy the hell out of some Wookiee toys.
Says the fall of the Super Star Destroyer was nonsense. Come on now. But no, it was fun. Release the Lance cut. Exactly. You should see my 4.5 hour cut of Bridge. I've done a 4.5 hour edit of Bridge Too Far, and I've edited in all the scenes from Band of Brothers Market Garden episode into the movie as one flawless film, along with a whole load of other shots as well.
Cool.
So it's I could show you a bit of it, but the stream will get stopped. So I tried to broadcast the whole edit.
Adam's familiar with that.
Yeah, they weren't having it. They weren't.
I've had my stream stopped midstream a couple of times. Pinched off by YouTube. Yeah. I thought we were here to talk about Metal Storm. This background is enticing me more than the Acolyte.
You know what? Because I realised that I'd taken the Acolyte picture off because we finished reviewing the show. So I thought, well, I'll put something sci-fi up, and we can.
I love Metal Storm.
Did someone mention Metal Storm? Oh, it's such a cool idea for a movie that didn't really have the money.
It's got spirit though. It's got heart. It's fun.
Yeah,
it is what it is. We had a lot of those good ones in the 80s.
It's better than the Acolyte. I mean,
it is. Absolutely.
In a future that grows ever closer, the fate of our Earth will lie in the hands of one man, a solitary warrior of great courage. His name is Dogen, and he is called the Finder. His enemies will emerge from the underworld to test his strength. Urok, the Cyclopean warlord of the One Eyes. The assassin Baal. Half man, half machine.
And just from that bit alone, I'm already way more excited than the Acolyte. Yeah, that sequence where he pulls Baal's arm off.
Mm-hmm.
And I had Tim Thomason on my channel who plays his sidekick, Dogen's sidekick in the show. And we talked about Metal Storm, and he had a fun story about going into Charles Band's office and demanding money because he hadn't got paid for doing that movie, and the movie had done really well.
Is that Tim Thomerson from
Trancers?
Trancers, yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, you had him on. I missed it.
Oh mate, well it's still on the channel,
right.
and he's due to come back. Actually, he wanted to come back, so
I'll be there.
Nice.
Yeah, he's coming back on, I think, before the end of the year. And I've also had Charles Band on, who produced Metal Storm and wrote it. So he's also been on. So that's why I had that clip all queued up, because that's what I showed at the beginning of him coming on. Nice. Can we have a look at Screen Rant?
Yeah.
See what they say.
I just remember the first time I saw Metal Storm, I just couldn't get over the fact that Bull from Night Court
Yeah,
was the
Richard
bad
Mall.
guy. Richard Mall was in there.
He did a lot
yeah,
of weird villains.
he not
in
long
the 80s.
he not long passed away,
Yeah.
and just it's weird. It was like I wrote out a list of people that I thought I should try and get these on soon because they're all quite old, and Thomason was at the top of the list.
Yeah.
And it just so happened that I had a guest on who was best friends with Thomason and said, "Oh, I'm best mates with him." And I'm like, you gotta get him on for me. I love this.
I must have watched Trancers 50 times on VHS.
Thomason was just like, he was effortlessly kind of cool.
Great charisma.
Everything he was in, he had this really good charisma on screen. He had a really cool voice. He had a really cool look, and
yeah, he looks effortless.
Yeah, makes acting look easy, which it's not. But let's cut back to talking of acting. Let's cut back to the Acolyte. Okay, so we've got Screen Rant. I don't know what is this, like Manny Jacinto on drugs, or what's going on here?
That's a bad filter.
Yeah.
Just he's very sweaty. That was right when he was about to kill May.
Okay. That whole switch up thing at the end of the show didn't work at all.
No, it didn't.
It wasn't enough time. I didn't believe it. It's like suddenly the good ones become evil. The evil ones maybe going to become fuck off.
Yeah, the whole thing just feels like random pages in order or out of order. I mean,
well, and we get whole concepts introduced, in the show. Oh, well, we've got the power of many, right? If you put so many of these different force users together, they can overpower anyone, and then we get to see at the end,
they get
literally, it just gets them killed. That's all it does. It just gets them all killed.
Yeah,
yeah. That was. I think somebody said they can't get killed in the fire because the fortress is made of stone. How can they die? Oh, I know. It'll be like a sort of an electricity bolt. If they get like severed from this mental connection and they don't do it on their own, it kind of fries their brains. Yes, that'll make total sense. Let's do that.
Sure, whatever. Yeah.
Well, it made an absolutely classic scene that I could just watch over and over and over again.
The memes from this show will live on forever.
Well, I mean, that's really going to be the history of this show, isn't it?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, yeah. And again, I would much rather watch a good show than have to, hate
so. Let's see. It's been officially cancelled. It's now clear the Acolyte has failed to be a success. In the end, viewership wasn't good enough. Hold the front page there. In the end, viewership wasn't good enough. Viewership means ratings, but the ratings were not great.
It's the audience's fault, as usual.
Mm-hmm.
Of course. There's a sense in which the Acolyte never really had a chance. A vocal backlash began on social media long before the show's release. Now, that is true to an extent because I deliberately put it out there. I'm not going to be part of this. That's why I decided, it was because of that backlash that I decided to review it, because I wasn't reviewing the Star Wars shows as a general rule of thumb, because I wasn't sure I had that much to contribute to them beyond saying, yeah, they're all right.
I'll leave it to other people that can do it better than I can.
Yeah, but I thought, okay, no, I'm going to take a stand on this one because maybe it'll be good. So, well, yeah. Leslie Headland proving particularly controversial. Review bombing campaign.
There's that phrase again.
Bombing. Yep.
Bombing. People maybe just didn't like it.
Yep.
People just,
and maybe there were a lot of people who didn't like it. The original sort of review bombing campaign was The Last Jedi. Well, that wasn't review bombing. That was a lot of people who hated the direction that you took Star Wars in that film.
Yeah. I mean, this is another such a gaslight phrase here. The Acolyte struggled to make headway against such a negative buzz. It's almost like you're describing a boat in sea in a storm, and this boat is a really cool boat, but because the storm is so bad, it can't make any headway. But the boat is still really good. Well, this boat ain't good. It's like a rowing boat in that storm. It ain't ever gonna get over that top wave because it's a rowing boat and it's only got one oar because someone forgot to put the other oar in the story. So I find this quite funny because they're all sort of we've read 4 of these now, and they've all got taken a very similar line, and it's got that definite gaslit undercurrent.
There's a lot of repeated words and phrases.
Yeah.
It's your fault that you didn't like it.
Yeah.
You know, just fuck off. This is nonsense.
It's just so transparent. It's just desperate.
And then here it goes, review by did it didn't help that the show it didn't help that the show was far from perfect, you think. 2 flashback episodes drained the momentum, while pacing and dialogue was often problematic. You could put crap.
Two flashback episodes that were 90% the same episode. Sometimes even the same shots. The same shots.
Well, that could be problematic.
And then that isn't to say that the Acolyte was awful, though. There were some moments that truly stood out, such as the whole of episode 5, in which the Sith Lord, known as the Stranger, battled against an entire group of Jedi. This has some of the best lightsaber choreography in Star Wars history. In brackets,
bull crap.
In brackets, except you can't see it because there's a load of trees in the way that we thought was a good idea.
And they're constantly
fill in the blanks.
Yeah, they're constantly swinging at each other's lightsabers. They're not swinging at each other.
Mm-hmm.
It's a mess.
And Manny Jacinto's performance as the Stranger was truly stellar. It's particularly upsetting for this news to break on Jacinto's birthday.
Oh, we should all feel so bad for not just fluffing him up because it's his birthday.
Manny, if you're listening, happy birthday. I thought you did a pretty good job in this terrible show.
I
think you were one of the best things about the show, Manny, and happy birthday. But those 2 things have nothing to do with entertainment news.
Mate, I think the best birthday present is you are now available to take better work.
Better roles. And I'm ready to watch you in those better roles. I really am. Because I think you're talented.
I think he's good looking on top of it.
Indeed. Yeah.
The final line on this review is of various times and novels and comics have already been announced. Good luck. No one's going to read those.
No, never were.
But they can't possibly tie up all the loose ends left by the Acolyte. It will be sad to see this era end in such unceremonious fashion.
Let's look at toxic fans.
Let's have a look at these comments. There's only a couple. Good news for the franchise. I just don't think the High Republic era is that interesting. Well, it could have been if you had a good script. Watching the trailer for Skeleton Crew, we will talk about that in a moment. I got invested in the story. I never got that from the Acolyte trailer, so I didn't bother with this show. The sentiment that the show never really had a chance due to a clash of identity politics is nonsense. Thank you very much. No one cares about the identities or beliefs of those involved in the creation of the show. A tightly written, well-produced show would have been welcomed warmly. The Acolyte was not that show. That is 100%.
Amen, Spike. Well done.
He hasn't been deleted yet. Good on you, Spike.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Nobody cared about Leslie Headland. Nobody cared about Amanda Stenberg and their whatever their
the most important work she's ever done. So how dare you dislike?
The most important art she's ever made. This was her David.
Well, her CV isn't trash. A lot of people said Russian Doll was very good. I haven't seen it.
I quite liked it. Liked it. It was fun. It's a Groundhog Day movie about a girl that gets stuck on the same day that there's a party that she goes to in New York, and I like the actress. The actress is one of the girls from the L Word, not the L Word. Sorry, Orange Is the New Black. I think.
Okay.
And she's a good actress, but I have realised she's quite similar. I've seen her in 3 things now, and she always plays the same kind of character. But she's well cast in Russian Doll, so it's worth your time. Watch the first 3 episodes, and you'll know if you like it.
Yeah, it's just the hyperbole of Leslie Headland saying that Star Wars saved her life and this is my greatest work of art, and have you a closed head injury? Are you well?
you had the other actresses talking about, oh, it's fine. It's time we finally had a female-driven Star Wars.
God.
And it's like,
Well, I mean, Carrie
okay.
Fisher as Princess Leia was like the heart
You-
of the
You
the
had a
first
you had a
release.
trilogy, Lance. You had a
Yeah.
trilogy that was driven by a woman as the main character. A trilogy of films.
Yeah.
Bad shit.
You've had Kathleen Kennedy at the head of that studio, a woman at the head of that studio for, years, ever since it was bought by Disney. So there's been women involved in this process. It's just ridiculous. Everyone has to be the first this and the first that and and it's just infuriating. I saw Darth Plato in the chat mentioned another thing that came up about the show, about the whole controversy about Ki-Adi Mundi being misused in the show too.
Yeah.
That teed off a lot of people.
Well,
Yeah.
that was the reason that I didn't mention it specifically, but I said earlier that one of the things you could tell with this show was they didn't have. There's always, if in the UK, if you come on a show that already exists and you're a guest writer, let's say, or a guest director, there will be someone who's part of that production team who you can go to and say, would this character have done this? I haven't seen.
Yeah, a lore keeper.
Yeah, it's usually
Continuity person.
they're usually like a Bible, someone who knows they've got a Bible of the show. They'll have it, especially for soaps. They'll have a massive Bible of the show, and they'll have big biographies of all the characters and who they dated and who they saw, and basically a kind of Wikipedia thing on the show, effectively.
And that's an important role to play in an ongoing IP, and they just seem to have just ignored that completely. I don't know
Someone
how many
just checked it on Google.
Yeah, I mean, somebody get Wikipedia. Like, it just like how many emotional therapists were on set for this? How many,
intimacy coordinators
and supervisors do you need? But you can't even just look at the trading cards to see when a character is alive or dead. It's just baffling to me.
Yeah,
so lazy.
Well, I mean, Headland, for the record, was born in 1980, which, was 3 years after the first Star Wars came out, the year of Empire Strikes Back, 2 years before Return of the Jedi. So she wouldn't have seen any of those films on first release at the cinema, so wouldn't have had that experience. She may have discovered...
So the prequels saved her life, I guess, is what she's talking about. Yeah, sure.
Besides, when you're Harvey Weinstein's assistant, you're not allowed any days off, so you don't have time to go and watch movies. Because, she wrote a play called Assistants, which is about... depicts the workplace of a world-renowned Daniel Wessinger, based on Harvey Weinstein, for whom
subtle.
Listen, I've done stuff like that. I'm all for that. Basically, the characters must switch from being human to being assistants, and there's a breakdown of the whole thing. But it's
very subtle.
Yeah. And at the end of the play, the main character, by the way, ends the play with concluding and calling themselves the best assistant ever.
Wow.
Ever
with an A.
Just in case you're doubting their skill and ability.
No one human traffics like my assistant. No one.
I have a feeling, there'll be a period of time, many, many moons from now, probably when us three have shuffled off our mortal coil, and there'll be whatever the future of film and television criticism is, and there'll be a show, and there'll be a load of people talking, and they'll cut back to, remember when YouTube was a thing, and suddenly everybody became a critic on, and like somehow that, by the way, those critics are less valid than people that have always been critics, which I find really interesting. That's a whole other conversation. But and in the future there'll be this big discussion, and somebody will get a compilation of various people talking about the Acolyte, and there'll be like a criticism reflection, and somebody on that panel is going to say, what were these people thinking? You know, and they'll be comparing it to something, and there'll be conversations about classic Star Wars and all that kind of stuff, and we'll probably all end up in some kind of video edit of look at these people on YouTube talking about this 50 years ago. I guarantee that's going to happen. I guarantee that's going to happen.
I don't worry about the future, but I'm fascinated by the future. Like lately, I've just been thinking a lot about the idea that we need to have a pre-AI and post-AI internet. Like there's this, I can't pinpoint the time, but once AI became unleashed, facts were blurry before AI, and then after that happens, and you get all of this stuff that is just sort of scraped and pushed through a filter and whatever, and is of dubious truthiness, whatever. Like if you really are sincere about fact checking something, you have to go pre-AI now.
Yeah.
Very strange.
I mean, funny enough, actually, I got, you know, if you've got a Facebook account, you get shown stuff like, here's a video you might like, or here's something. It's all ads and pushing.
Sure, yeah.
It's awful.
It's almost never your posts of your mates. You get one of those every 5 adverts, whatever.
Yeah.
And I got like profile, you know, of someone. I'm like, who's this? This person's not on my friends list. And I looked at the profile. I'm looking at the pictures, and they don't look quite right. And I'm thinking, this looks like an AI profile. And then
a fake account, yeah.
The pinned post at the top of the profile is, a load of you are complaining and putting comments that this profile is AI. Ha 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 ha. And I had a quick scan through it, and it obviously was an AI profile, right. Very obviously.
What else would an AI say?
And I'm thinking, you know, there's going to be a whole load of those on Facebook. And there was also, I was briefly on a dating app last summer. Fucking knocked all that on the head. Fucking useless.
No, it's all right. That's how I met my wife. There's no shame.
No. Listen, that's where everybody meets people now. No one meets people in life anymore. Don't be silly.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
And it was like very obvious that at some point, some of these profiles, loads of them were fake. And it became obvious to me that a lot of the fake profiles were being created by the site, not just
sure. Yeah.
scans.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's a well-known trick.
And this wasn't whatever
Twitter as well.
This was not Ashley Madison, by the way, just to be clear. This was dating, not a boom boom jiggy boom boom site. And I had a great thing. I had this line. I had this. They would do that hi, whatever, and the conversation would seem very basic. And I had this great line that I would say to them. And if it was an AI profile, I always got back the identical response to this comment. And that was how I managed to rule out and block about 15 of these.
It's on every platform. It's on Instagram. It's on Facebook. It's on Twitter. It's on YouTube.
Terminator's becoming a reality. It's
Skynet has awoken.
So talking of Skynet, before we begin to wrap this up, and I mean, talking about other IPs and things, I could ask them whether they sat down and watched The Acolyte, but I don't think I'll ask them that question. I have Galen Hurd coming on my channel.
I'm very excited.
Yeah.
Next month.
That was such an unexpected pleasure when she showed up before.
On the Ron Underwood stream, we had her for
about 10 minutes. I immediately texted my wife. I was like, "Oh my God, Galen Hurd is on."
And I'm extremely lucky because she has given other interviews, but I'm the only YouTube channel, as far as I know, like YouTuber, that she's agreed to come on. And
fantastic.
And I'm thinking about all the questions. So I've got to submit my questions in advance. I'm thinking about all the questions I want to ask, and one of the questions I do want to ask was there ever a script proposal put forward for Terminator 3, which I think she was an executive producer but fairly hands off of, that was all set in the future that would neatly bring the thing back full circle? Because me and Retro on her channel, we did a Let's Fix the Terminator franchise stream, and I wrote out a whole treatment for this script I would have written, and it basically was the whole movie was the big attack on Skynet, the big attack on the main Skynet headquarters, and it starts off with the Resistance doing all these diversionary attacks so that the Terminators send all their main forces to these diversionary attacks, which strips the defenses of the main kind of CPU building, which is also where the time machine's being built. And it's a race against time to get there to destroy the time machine. And there's all these various kind of internal defense systems, little types of robots and traps and things that kill the commando team off that are going in the back. And eventually, when they get to the main room, they get there in time just to see like Arnie going through. So he goes straight after him, you know, the Michael Biehn character. And then just after that scene's finished, they find a second room beyond that one where they're building the T2's being built, you know, the T1000. And then it ends with then them reprogramming an Arnie robot to then go after that. And then that brings the whole thing completely full circle. It was great.
Have you seen the trailer for the Terminator anime?
Yeah, it looks good.
It does.
It looks good. It looks like Ghost in the Shell to me.
Yes, it does. Yeah, the style is very much the same.
Yeah, just the assembly mechanics of it are very Ghost in the Shell, and that's okay. That, you know, that's not an automatic strike or whatever. But I really hope that goes somewhere good. I would love to be entertained.
I'm fingers crossed. I don't know if Gail's connected to it at all, but
yeah, I just want a proper Terminator movie where we're in the human resistance in the future. That's what I really want. A good version of that where
that was
boots on the ground. Kyle Reese kind of, you know, just running and gunning. That would make a great series. I don't know why that hasn't happened yet.
You know, battles with groups being hunted and different installations getting taken out, and the plan for the final assault on Skynet. How glorious would that be? That was the first 2 minutes of Terminator 2. There's a big scene in the future with a battle, isn't there? And I just thought Terminator 3's got to be that. It's got to be that.
Right.
That's what we want. And I guess somebody balked at the stunts and action and all this, but I was thinking, you know what? It's not going to be that expensive, because actually what you're going to be doing is you're going to build a massive set, maybe for your big, you know, outdoor landscape thing.
Indoor set, black walls.
Yeah, force perspective model in the background of the complex, which looks bigger than it is.
Yeah.
Really, so, you know, you get your biggest studio that you can for that, and then you probably got about 4 other studios you're going to hire out for the internal corridors and
close-ups and
different plate bits that you're getting in through the schematic that you got through the MacGuffin that you got earlier or whatever. That would have been a really.
I just want a great run and gun drama with humans on the ground, and, you know, fighting within each other, fighting against the Skynet, and it seems like such an easy layup. There's so many premises that aren't being used. You know, there's so many just wonderful little tangents that we could go on, and everyone seems to be in agreement about what those would be. But we get the Acolyte instead.
Well, you'd kind of think the same for Alien, and you just keep getting more awful.
Yes, the Nostromo survived, and teenagers are taking it over.
Well, for anyone who's interested, of course, on my channel, I do a lot of interviews. But funnily enough, last week, someone actually came to my house and interviewed me. There's a guy who's got his own podcast who's called Andreev, and it's called Real Talk. And the video just went up today.
Oh, cool.
So if listening to my monotone, boring English voice on a stream is not enough for you, and you are prepared to endure more pain, then by all means, come and check out the stream, and I'll see if I can grab the link for it. Here we go. I've got
Is it down in the description yet?
No, it's not actually. I'll put it in the chat. I keep forgetting to mention it. I'm terrible at this sort of thing. And it's now got 32 views. That's not very many, is it? We need to get that up a little bit. Yeah,
well,
so
if you get it to 33, that's about as much as I can do.
I'll put it in the chat. I'm not talking about the Acolyte. I do talk about script writing and the basic principles because he's mainly interviewing me as an industry professional. We get into some fairly heavy topics, but funnily enough, one of the things that I think at one point he said, "Can you give me an example?" Because we were talking about studio meddling or when people meddle on a set and it goes wrong.
Oh, it's a 2-hour interview. Very cool.
Yeah, it's pretty detailed, and you've got all the different. He's already broken up all the different chapters, so you can go straight to the bits you want to hear about. And so he asked me that, and he said, "Can you give me a recent example of that?" And I thought for like 2 seconds, and I went, "Yes, I can. House of Dragons season 2, where the two women had a kiss, and it wasn't originally in the script, and the actresses just decided to do it, and then it's never talked about again. They never do anything with the characters again in the next episode that suggests there's any romance between them. There's nothing in the episodes leading up to that suggests there's any romance between these characters, that there's any sexual tension or attraction. So suddenly you have these two characters just kissing out the blue, and and I was told, and it's secondhand information, so I don't know if it's true, but I was told that was an impromptu decision made by the actors on the set. Sure, let's do it as a take. But at some point, some showrunner or continuity person should have said, but there's nothing to establish this in all the other scenes we've shot. And I think they actually shot the scenes out of sequence as well, because the scenes that come in the next episode, there's nothing. The actors are giving nothing. And I think they can't have shot those in sequence. This must have been the last scene they did. And they decided, oh, let's try doing a kiss. And it ended up in the show. And it's like, why is that there? It doesn't add anything. It doesn't feel natural. I'm all for it if it had been part of the storyline and it was in the scripts originally, and if it was, okay, but then why is it underwritten, and why is there nothing to establish this attraction?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Is it a scheme of the witch? Maybe she's trying to get into the head of the woman, but there's nothing to back that up either. No kind of little looks to camera or it's so you've let the actors meddle there when it wasn't really warranted. And actually what the showrunner should have stepped in and said, no, because we're not going to do that, because we haven't done anything to establish that that's there. Maybe we'll look at that next season. That's what they should have said. So,
yeah, well, if it gets through the editing room, then you may have a problem.
Yeah, so but I talk about that kind of stuff, and board games and writing under pressure, and oh my god, my friendship with Jason Fleming, and a whole load of other million things. So if you fancy reading all that or listening to all of that, the link is in the chat. I've just put it in there. Ryan Randall says, and I don't think you've commented in my chat before, welcome to the channel. Also,
Ryan's new. It sounds like he's had quite a night out.
I mean, I got free drinks, but just felt like a third wheel on tonight, guessing that's my fault for being bold, ginger beard, and being 28. But I'm hoping tonight will get me chilled. Were you on a different stream or something? I'm not sober. Been a stressful week. It's my day off. Back to chill. Okay, man. I'm sorry to hear you've had a stressful week. Mine wasn't a bunch of laughs either. So I lost a couple of friends last week. So.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
Bit too much of that going on at the moment. Well, one of them I lost because we've had a falling out over a conversation we had, and they've decided to end our friendship. And I'm like,
oh no,
wow,
oh, that's
20 years, 20 years because we disagreed on a transgender issue. That's what that was about.
Yeah, I have a friend who quite literally doesn't talk to me anymore because I didn't like The Last Jedi.
Wow.
Yep.
Oh, that's awful.
Oh yes, Ryan, you were. Thank you, mate. Thank you for reminding me. So, yeah, Barbara, it's just nonsense. It's so stupid, and it's like, you know,
I'm so tired of a binary partisan reality where it's
Yeah.
either or. It's just
Well,
it's exhausting.
one of the things that they said was, "Oh, we no longer share the same values," and I'm like, oh, "Sorry, what your morality compass is now? What does that mean? It's superior to mine that you have better values than me?"
No, I value friendship,
I'm one
whether
of
we
the
agree
most.
on everything or not.
I'm one of the most human-driven, liberal, socially accepting of all that life has to offer people you could ever meet. I just don't agree with the sexualization of children. That's it. That's one of the things I really don't agree with. Your children don't get to be children for very long. And anyway, I don't normally talk politics on my channel, so let's not go there. But I just, kids should be allowed to be kids. They're going to have to grow up pretty quick anyway. And
Childhood just gets shorter and shorter, and
does, and
the quality of it is eroding quickly.
Yeah,
It is indeed. Yeah.
Yeah, Lego spaceships are there for a reason. Let people play with them, and all the adult stuff can wait because it's going to come around soon enough.
Just give me a treehouse or a cardboard box and a couple of people to turn it into a spaceship with me, and I'm good.
Yeah, but I built many a spaceship out of a cardboard box in my life.
Yeah, absolutely.
So anyway, but the Acolyte's over, but we've got Snow White to look forward to, so it's all good.
Huzzah! Oh man, I cannot believe they haven't shelved this yet.
Just say that,
guys. Have you? I've got Roy Wagner coming on Friday, who is the director of photography from Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors. He also did Nick of Time, which is one of my favorite Johnny Depp movies. Chris Walken as the bad guy. So he's coming on Friday, 8 o'clock. We've got the Nielsen ratings tomorrow evening, 10 p.m. UK time, where we discuss the latest things we've seen. One of the things we'll be talking about is Alien Romulus, which was, in my opinion, it was a commendable failure, is what I would call it. Some very good things, some good ideas, but sadly didn't quite cut the mustard for me. Guys, do you have anything you want to plug? Atom, do you want to go first?
The usuals. Wednesday, I'll be on Total Recall, which is our friend Jethrobot's show. It's totaled with one L, Recall, on YouTube. We look at movies from our childhoods and our formative years that we haven't seen since, and we decide whether or not it's worth a rewatch. It's an interesting premise for a show. This week we're doing Heathers this Wednesday.
Oh, I do like that movie. That's a
in
the West End of London at the minute, I think, or it was.
Winona Ryder looks great in that, I must say. And then every Friday on B-Roll Stage, we do a show called B-Sides, where we riff and laugh and discuss a feature every week, much like Mystery Science Theater. And our friend Artoo has been a frequent guest and a great contributor. So
I heard Mystery Science Theater's gone. It's not been.
Riff Tracks got their channel deleted from YouTube.
Yes. Yeah.
So all their videos have gone, everything.
The whole channel.
They actually, did you see the story today? Because they did actually give an update about
they made a
what
statement.
happened. Yeah. So apparently there was a parent company that owned a bunch of the films that they've used, and that channel got shut down because of some copyright strikes. And so in turn, theirs got shut down, but they don't know if they're going to get to come back or not. So
they've been going a long time, those guys.
Well, the Riff Tracks, their channel that's only been down for a few days. The Mystery Science Theater, that show that came back for a couple of seasons, limited. It was crowdfunded and whatnot.
Yes,
they did
very good.
They did a crowdfunded season.
Fun.
Yeah, so they did some crowdfunding. They got a couple of seasons with Netflix, and then they did a crowdfunded only season, and that I thought went really well. Then they had tried to crowdfund another season, but it didn't make. They didn't get enough money for that. So
grassroots group of people. They have a hardcore, a large cult following. And they do wonderful work, and it absolutely inspired me to create B-Sides. And R2 is an absolute connoisseur, professor of all things Mystery Science Theater. He runs a
All things riffing.
fantastic Discord over there.
I
So
do.
it's sad to see red tape and legal complications getting in the way of just enjoyment and creativity. But at the same time, there's so much bad faith going on behind YouTube.
Yeah, there is.
It's astonishing.
Well, and that some of these creators who are coming in, I don't mean even call them creators, grifters, whatever you want to call them, that are coming in and claiming footage, claiming films that they don't own.
Yeah,
and there's no cost to be paid on their end.
Yeah,
if they make false claims.
And these are largely public domain films, and public domain exists as a legal status for a reason.
Yeah.
After 26, 28 years, if a license has not been renewed on a film or a piece of music or whatever, then it becomes the public's property, and for very, very good reason. And I have been fighting things like someone who sampled Trilogy of Terror for 10 seconds in their own little music video, and I can't beat the copyright claim on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's insane. It's just absolutely nuts behind the scenes at YouTube. So I feel bad for the guys that do the work at Riff Tracks, but as far as like management, distribution, and all of the bureaucratic stuff, I'm like, you guys have been a thorn in my side too. I'm sorry, but you've given me a lot of headaches.
Yes. Well,
yeah,
and Shout Factory as well.
Shout Factory has been a frequent thorn in our side. So,
Shout Factory are the ones that are constantly playing like Space 1999 all the time, and
they do own the licensing to a lot of older properties legitimately. The problem arises when a show like Mystery Science Theater or Riff Tracks takes a public domain movie and they riff on top of it and they create a new piece of media with that public domain media. They believe and they assert that they own the rights to that original piece of media as far as YouTube is concerned. And I have been fighting it this past year, tooth and nail. It's insane. Just because you've used something that is publicly owned does not give you the rights to it. If I transform something, I don't own the source material.
Yeah,
no,
it's just a mess. It's just an absolute mess.
Yeah, and YouTube is also very much to blame. Their algorithms.
Oh, they're the biggest. They're the
terrible.
biggest bad guys in this. Yes,
they're terrible. Their algorithms are awful. The matching and stuff that they do is so broad as to sweep up things that it should never have.
And you have to go two layers deep into disputes and appeals to even reach something like a human being, because it's all automated. It's all
I've understood that. I did a trailer for Spartacus, which we were doing tonight, and every week that trailer gets flagged, and
it's promotional material. It's made to be shared.
Yeah, and at the front of it, I've put in memory of Andy Whitfield, which is quite important to me because that's one of the reasons I wanted to do the show, because it's his legacy basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and good luck getting a human being to make a decision on that usage. It's
the
madness.
Good news is that I've disputed it under fair use, and I've got it. The bad news is I have to do it every week, and you would think that once you've done it once, someone would get logged somewhere and they would leave you alone, but no.
And then you live stream it and it goes to an entirely different set of filters and rules. It is absolutely insane. If you try and follow the rules that they give you, I pre-check all of the movies that we do every Friday, at least a few days in advance, sometimes months in advance. And it says no copyright, and we show it on air and then we get shut down. It's madness. It's a great time to open a Rumble account, everyone. Go over to rumble.com and reserve your domain name. I can't say enough about how well we've been treated by the folks at Rumble.
So, yeah, I want to get on there. Well, listen, we're going to wrap it up because it's 20 to 4 a.m. in the UK. And this is a gut reaction video to the news that season 2 of Acolyte is shut down. My gut reaction.
R.I.P. Acolyte.
Yeah. Gut reaction videos are normally about 15 to 20 minutes. This has been 2 hours, but it's I do like having impromptu guests on my channel. So I just want to thank Atom Grey and Professor Artoo for coming on. I'm sorry I don't have your information down below.
Oh, absolute
No
pleasure,
worries.
Lance. Anytime.
If I remember, I'll try and update that later.
No worries.
So guys, don't forget to come back tomorrow for 10 o'clock UK time. We'll be doing the Nielsen ratings. We'll be talking about some older films that we like, as well as Alien, Romulus, and some other things we've seen recently. I finally saw Furiosa, for example, so I just saw that for the first time a few days ago.
I can't wait to see it.
Yep, so it should be a lot of fun. And then, of course, don't forget we have the Roy Wagner interview on Friday. I think that's at 8 o'clock or 8:30 UK time, give or take. Anyway, it's already up on the channel, so you can double check. Thanks to everybody in the chat, including the new guests who came in. We definitely had some new people in the chat that I haven't seen before. Thanks to Darth Plato for the super chat. The BMAX, I think, is new NPC person. I don't think I've had in the chat before. I do like interacting with the chat. These are the fun times when the chat's not too busy, so I can talk to people on a personal basis and make you feel valued and special, unlike what the Acolyte did to us. So, on that note, ooh, that was a bit cutting, but it's true though. On that
You're not
note,
wrong.
we're going to love you and leave you and sign off. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Do check out the industry interviews. They are the unique part of my channel, and they're pretty good. And I'll speak to you all again soon.